Hello, I am Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars, bringing you insights, ideas, visions for the lunations. I'm giving you the opportunity here to brainstorm what is the best that we can do with these transits and these particular full moons and new moons. So today we're going to have a look at the full moon, and it is a full moon eclipse. So it's the kickstart of eclipse season. And it will be happening on the 25th of March at 5 degrees Libra. So quite a few important things here. Obviously, the sign where this full moon eclipse is important. But first is an eclipse and is a full moon as well. And so we're talking about combinations as usual with full moons, but with the eclipse and the eclipse season and energy, we have a combination of even more powerful nature. So really, the way I like to think about eclipses is that they really point out what needs to go, what needs to be left, what needs to be left out, so we can grow, so we can move the things that don't serve us anymore, basically. So everything that doesn't serve you anymore will be highlighted during this full moon eclipse. And in particular, the area that's going to be activating or that's going to be activated by this full moon eclipse will reveal much of this process personally for you. So as usual, like I always say here, find out where this full moon eclipse is in your chart. What house is being picked up? Does it touch any of your personal placements as well in your chart? So let's say you're Sun in Libra, or you've got Venus in Libra, and this full moon eclipse is right there, really close to that point in your chart. So it will be about endings and seeing things clearly about these endings as well, like, something that becomes really obvious for us, really, really obvious in our life. And excuse me. And so there's really something about that sense of having these sort of insight. And because we're talking about the moon, there's always a lot of emotions that get triggered as well. Even though we are having this in Libra, which is an air sign, so tends to be a little bit more rational, it's still a full moon eclipse. So it still could be a very emotional time, a very emotionally triggering time. Also, Venus, which is the planet ruler of this moon in Libra, is in Pisces. So we still have a very strong emphasis in Pisces, even though we're already in Aries season. So a lot of emotions, a lot of water, so beware. Now, before I move on to talk about the chart of this full moon and what else can we see in this full moon, let's have a look at the Sabian symbol for the 5th degree of Libra, which is where this full moon will be happening. So the image for the 5th degree of Libra is a person watches their ideals taking a concrete form before their inner vision. So there's something about an inner vision happening first and these things manifesting. So there are a few topics really that comes to mind as we think about this image. So manifesting inner visions, obviously, manifesting, making it concrete. So if you remember the last new moon that we had on the 10th of March, it was a lot about bringing visions to reality. We had a new moon right in between Saturn and Neptune, and there's a lot about dreaming, but making it real. Dreaming dreams that we can put into reality somehow, that we can crystallize and manifest. So the Sabian symbol for this full moon now is carrying a similar message, that whatever it is that we're focusing will manifest. So there is that sense that I just said about the concrete form of the inner vision, but there is also the concrete form of anxieties or things that we might be giving too much attention or too much energy as well. The idea of where attention where attention goes, energy flows, and so this idea of manifesting something because we're focusing too much on it. So there's a bit of a warning with this particular full moon eclipse, with this Sabian symbol as well. And even though it's something that we are aware of most of the time, I think during this full moon eclipse, this will be even more evident. So there's something about the idea of the law of attraction that's reflected by the 5th degree of Libra. So let's keep that in mind and think about what is the quality of our thoughts. I think that's really something that's very important here. What is the quality of our thoughts, the quality of our communication as well? Like, how is that playing out, between what we imagine and what we have inside and what's happening outside. All right, so this is the Sabian symbol, but let's have a look at the chart of this full moon as well then, because it's a full moon eclipse. There's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of potential for this lunation right now, and for us to detox or to get rid of something. So first, there are a few things I want to talk about. So first, like I said before, there is great emphasis in Pisces during this full moon eclipse. So we're still dealing with some of the Piscean flavors of earlier in the month of March. So we're still kind of going on, because the moon is in Libra, which is ruled by Venus. So the moon is in Libra, ruled by Venus in Pisces. And then the sun in Aries, which is the other end of this full moon, is ruled by Mars, which is also in Pisces. So we've got Venus and Mars in Pisces, both rulers of the nodes, as well as the sun and the moon during this full moon as well. So there's something really powerful about the Piscean flavor here. The dreaming and bringing the dreams into reality, perhaps forgiving as well, which is a very powerful Piscean flavor. Compassion, forgiving, moving on from something, not holding on to that anymore. And Venus, which is that ruler of the moon in Libra and the south node, is also not too far from Saturn. So we've got Venus in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces close to each other. So there's something about karma that Saturn represents. This sort of flavor and idea here that Saturn represents, that is together with the ruler of the full moon as well. So maybe moving away from the past, or having the past come back to you, to acknowledge, to forgive, to let go. But that's there. Now, with Venus and Saturn close together as well, I would say that this is a very important time to take our values very seriously. So to be very serious and committed to your values, which, is what Venus represents. So being very serious about what's valuable to you, questions around self-worth, self-value, all of that is there. But also potentially money, and potentially partnerships as well, in relation to money, in relation to values, in relation to self-worth as well. So it will be triggering any deep-seated issues that we might have about these different topics here that I'm just mentioning. And I think one of the great things about Saturn really is the promise of mastery, is the promise of really mastering that situation, that fear or block or whatever it is. But in order to do that, we need to take responsibility. So responsibility is another key word during this full moon eclipse. Taking responsibility. Right. So we've got that Venus and Saturn in conjunction. That's one of the things I really wanted to say. The other thing I want to say that I can see as I look at the chart is that Venus and Jupiter are forming a special relationship. So Venus is in Pisces, which is the sign traditionally ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. So they're in mutual reception. So they're on each other's sign, and that means they work as a little pair, even though they're a little bit far away. And in fact, they are also forming a tight sextile to each other. So there is a 60 degrees angle of 1 degree orb between the two. Not even that, a little less. It's actually a very, very tight sextile between Venus and Jupiter, which means they're in a very harmonious dialogue. They're really in touch with each other there, those two principles. So finding ways of bringing stability to your life, something that's aligned with your values. Again, Venus ruled Jupiter is also talking about our values, talking about expanding our connection with our values, with our senses, being grounded, being in connection to nature as well. So I think the Venus-Jupiter relationship highlights once again the potential for healing during this full moon eclipse, the potential to get in touch and channel this beautiful energy, this beautiful harmony between Venus and Jupiter as well, which equals more healing of the situations of our self-worth and all of these other things that we just mentioned before. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say is that this full moon eclipse, it really feels to me that this full moon eclipse will be preparing the ground, just like in the previous new moon. I was talking about the new moon preparing the ground for the new astrological year. I feel that this full moon is preparing the ground, or this eclipse season in particular, that's starting with this full moon 25th, is preparing the ground for the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction. So planet Uranus and Jupiter will meet each other in April, and they will meet at 21 degrees Taurus. So they're not too far from each other in this full moon, in this eclipse. They're about 5 degrees away from each other. So they're already coming to meet very powerfully. And in April, this is a moment that's being very that all the astrologers are very excited about. Anyone that knows a little bit about astrology have heard of. And it has to do with big breakthroughs, with the potential for big breakthroughs finally, something that you've been trying to, that you've been putting your heart and soul, but it hasn't been going the way that you want it, or hasn't moved ahead very much. This transit can help you. So I think this full moon eclipse and the eclipse season in general, it will be helping us to prepare the seeds, to prepare the ground for this new breakthrough that we're going to be witnessing once Jupiter and Uranus meet each other. So that's it. Try to make the most of this full moon eclipse and use it to reset and make the most of these energies for preparing yourself for what's to come, because there are some very exciting energies that are heading our way soon. So best to clear the decks, do a big cleaning in our psyches, in our hearts, in our lives, so we can embrace this new energy that will be coming. All right. So I'm wishing you all a wonderful full moon eclipse season as well, very empowering, and I'll be talking to you all very soon. I am Fernanda Paiva, Hitchhiking Stars. Take care. Bye bye.